to know about you and why Marketo, why not, and basically everything about you, why you chose Marketo, why not other marketing automation platform, and what kind of value you see in Marketo, which is not in the other platforms.
It's not a choice. I ended up here actually. Um, so I started working for an agency about a decade ago. Um, Started on a small project of project management, and it was actually for Marketo. Learned a lot there, and um, slowly started to learn it by picking up pieces here and there. I mean, in those days, it was not like, this much detailed, or the documentation was not this vast, but the concepts were still the same. We had lead scoring, we had nurturing, we had campaigns, like we even had forms, we even had dynamic content. So all of that was in place. So I started when marketing automation was just getting started, like in 2013, 14. It had been like a couple of years since automation has been in place. I did try HubSpot. I even got certified in HubSpot in around 2014 or 15. But I had more projects in Marketo. It was not a conscious choice to pick Marketo over something else. And I don't think that uh, platform should decide, like, your choice. It should be other way around. Like, I see a platform as a tactic to support your overall marketing strategy. Whatever you are doing, much of that is possible with any marketing platform. It's just that in some cases, Marketo scales better. And of course, there are benefits or of HubSpot or other platforms for other specific areas. For example, HubSpot is usually good at um, visual reporting analytics, right? It can generate good dashboards. Marketo does not has that is built. It's more of like, I would say Marketo is kind of the default. um, I kind of use this analogy that Marketo is like Excel, of spreadsheets. um, Even if we have Airtable, it's just so vast and deep that I feel that there are no boundaries in Marketo. To ask about career aspirations, um, I think it has always been based on whatever roads take us to. It's not like we are trying to reach somewhere. Um, we're usually solving problems of marketers. So there was an era when the whole thing was around nurtures, the whole thing was around email blasts. Then we have this account based marketing these days, right? Sometimes you will say, I want to send, I mean, your marketing department is usually guiding you, and Marketo kind of fits in my role. I can do the time zone based campaigns, and not just campaigns, it also extends to marketing operations. And I truly believe that marketing operations were in a way born in Marketo. For example, we do see things like lead scoring or signals, a lot of platforms. All these concepts were there when we started using Marketo. So lead scoring has been a concept since 10 years. Lead nurturing has been a concept since years. Dynamic content and personalization is nothing new. Um, but yes, there are functionalities which got added later on in Marketo. It actually increased a lot after Adobe acquired it. Specifically in past 1 or 2 years, it went through a big change. I think Marketo ultimately is an Adobe product now, and that also makes it very different from the Marketo we knew. It has a lot more functionalities, a lot more robust functionalities. Call it dynamic chat. We are thinking about interactive webinars. Um, there are conversational flows and forms, and there is a lot of searches. We also suspect that the roadmap is also including AI in content for emails. The email UI editor might change. If you have talked to a couple of more marketer practitioners, maybe user group leaders or maybe champions, I am sure they would have mentioned it. So the thing is that right now the career aspiration is not about learning the functionality. It's more about being very proficient. It's more about being very adaptable so that I am able to accommodate the requirement using Marketo, because that is ultimately what helps a marketing team and a sales team. If I talk about my role, I talk to sales, I talk to compliance teams, I talk to marketing. I am a part of marketing team. So we do analyze like why is this nurture in place, and those discussions are pretty above for the functionalities, and then we need to translate that into the functionalities. The the thing is that we have it's like other way around. I have been on the both sides. For example, we have from the agency side, I was always looking for projects. So I was always trying to figure out what we can do for you. And ultimately, I realized in Grazity that, it's not going to work like, it's not like a shelf product. We have to work backwards from the marketing strategy. So my questions changed. Like I started asking, like, what do you want to achieve this year? What is the theme? Is it ABM? Is it a lot of nurtures? Do you want to laser focus on global marketing? Um, you cannot do all. It's very strategic. A marketing team always decides something strategy, one or two items, and there are, those are the themes. So to answer the question about career aspirations at this stage, I really don't have any. So because it's a very evolving industry. But yes, if anyone who is starting their career in automation, I always recommend them to a develop technical proficiency. um, they should not be very satisfied that okay, I now know to create a webinar program, I now know to create a field, I am aware of how to create a custom activity. Be it anything, be it like if you are a developer, you also have an edge, right? You can do a lot more than a normal user. So I am not a developer. I usually feel that whenever I am working in, but I have never felt that there is a workaround in place. Like there is always a workaround in place. So you can see my content. I try to Most of my content is not designed for developer. It's designed for pragmatic users who can. I mean, if I give you a document, I'm pretty sure like 90% chances you will be able to adopt that and implement it. It usually does not involve any kind of coding or advanced skills. So coming back to point, whenever any candidate or anyone I have mentored earlier, I have never recommended to uh, put a full stop on learning. In terms of technical proficiency, it should ultimately be okay. I mean, there should be a confidence that we will make it work, be it any platform, because the platform will evolve. The marketer we see today might be very different to the marketer we will see in 2027, maybe, let's say. So if we think about marketer in terms of functionality, we will we will need to do a lot of work to re-engineer and rework ourselves, versus if we talk about how do we solve problems of marketing, we can always backtrack. So you have a sea of functionality. It's your strategic mind which picks one functionality or two functionality which is impactful, and that's what makes the difference. I mean, that is what I usually guide people, and I totally keep on learning from my mentors. There is a lot of alumni. Call it. I learned a lot from Josh Hill. I learn a lot from. I mean, the whole community learns from Sandy. There are a lot more people to learn from. The beauty is that There is no excuse to learning in this community. I saw your post today. I hope you already know that there's a lot of support around here. So that is my take. You can see, like, I can continue talking on this topic for more than an hour, but I'll take a break here. Let me know your thoughts.
Uh, okay, so many gold nuggets. I think you have been a mentor because you have covered so many areas, beautifully explained so many things, and you say it was not a career choice, but I see that you're a marketer champion. So I've seen people giving up, like they just being a manager and basic certification, then they can switch. But you became a marketer champion. That's something. Uh,
Mhm.
that's an amazing thing. Secondly, there's one more thing that I note. You actually mentioned. At first, there was the era of email blasts, and now there is the account-based marketing. So the transition from email blast to account-based marketing, what do you think is the main reason for that transition?
I believe it is the reducing attention span on a broad level. Um, so there are two thoughts. I hope you will find it interesting. I am not an expert in science, but I like some concepts of physics. So if I even don't talk about Marketo, I am a true believer that universe keeps on expanding, then and the chaos keeps on expanding. I mean, it can take any form, and I apply that to a lot of areas in my life. And when I apply that to marketing, I see that there's a lot of expansion in the communication channels. We used to have email and Facebook. We added Twitter. It came X. Then we came into YouTube. There's a whole lot of like more channels. Google is no more the only channel. Now we are expanding to perspective. What is that? I mean, I'm sorry, it's hard to pronounce. Perplexity. Um, Chat GPT, of course, and LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a huge platform for the next 10 years. And now with the personal branding thing kicking up, everyone is trying to create a personal brand. Like, people are having their own newsletters. um, so think about, like, again, my point comes back to, it's not possible to be aware of everything. um, when we are talking about email blast, we were talking about, so email blasts still work, right? But they're not expected to convert customers. We do, they're done for associated communications. Like, most B2B companies rely on events. um, so I mean, you can think about this discussion itself, like, no amount of LinkedIn engagement can match this discussion, because this is something very detailed, and that's what happen in in-person events or other events. So let's take a lot of examples. Adobe does its own summit, right? Or we do at Here Technologies. There's an event called Ignite. We also go to CES, right? There are a lot of mini events like user groups. I worked on a big project at Grazity. I mean, we worked on a lot of campaigns for Alteryx. They did a lot of user group. They did a lot of webinars, right? So it's more like when the product is high value, like, uh, you're not selling a $10 product, right? If you're selling a $2,000 product, the email won't just cut it. You will need to talk about it, you will need to explain about it. And then there are communities. So I think the reason it happened is because, a, the attention span has reduced because of what I call chaos in social media, and b, the ambition has increased because everyone wants to increase revenue. Companies want to increase revenue, and they are building products which are, I would say, costlier, and they want to prove their value. So if a data analytics team platform solves something, right? If it solves something huge, take about, let's talk about Salesforce. Like, there is a tool called Einstein. It's pretty costly, but it captures a lot of data points and it turns up into a dashboard which the strategic team can use to make decisions which will ultimately impact their marketing changes. So that in itself is more valuable. I mean, even if they sell 10 licenses from that, it makes economic sense. So that is the other idea, because people are not looking for volume these days. People are looking for fewer but high ticket clients, um, when they are looking for ABM. So ABM is especially for penetrating into account. Because the revenue demand is higher, and B because um, such a huge um, such a huge investment is not decided by one person. I think that is very well talked about the buying committee. I think Full Funnel IO has a good resource on it. Like they talk a lot about this. I think Vladimir is one person there. He works with Anthony, I think. But yes, overall, that is one. I'm not saying that ABM is very widely used. It's definitely a part of discussion, and it's with many things like this is also very misunderstood. ABM, many people think like, ABM is about marketing to 1000 companies. No, that was not the intention behind it. Although that is something which works, right? I'm not saying that it doesn't works. You have, let's suppose, 10 lakh people in your database, and they are spread over, let's suppose, more than 1000 companies. You know that 50 of those companies are more relevant to your business. You will definitely want to focus your areas on that front, because it is very likely to convert. So if you are a healthcare industry, you would likely want to target hospitals. Like you may not want to like target manufacturing units. So that is the reason for ABM. ABM doesn't replaces any email blasts or nurture. It's like more focused effort. But coming back, I think overall, if I look at very broad economic sense, it's more about budgets. It's more about proving ROI, and if you are able to generate more revenue, it becomes easier to command budgets, because this venture funding thing has been a um, big area. So all the companies, most of the companies are going public. There is investor pressure, and very few people bootstrap. So that's the reason I think revenue is a big thing, and I think some people even criticize it that there should not be this thing like growth at all costs. Um, so that, I mean, it's not as simple as I told you. I mean, these are my thoughts. Of course, there are a million more dimensions to it, but that is me. That those are my thoughts around why these things happen. Like why ABM, or why nurtures, why I mean why marketing is pretty much like they want to prove ROI. I think it is very much about ROI to seek the fundings and seek the budgets.
Uh, Thank you, Pankaj. That was really insightful. So, ending it on ROI, there was actually a trend going on, and it has been going on for I think in the last 2 years, the last 1 year. I've been actually actively looking into this. Some of our customer
Mhm.
personas actually told us that there's a gap between the communication of CMOs and there's a gap between the communication of CMOs and CFOs. It is becoming increasingly difficult to justify the marketing spend. I followed, how should I say, a report published by Marketo. It was published recently on B2 business to business attribution, and it explored the topic of attribution modeling quite well. So the concept was that an attribution model, like a W-shaped or any kind of attribution model that you're employing, it doesn't cover all the touch points. So for that, basically, you need not just attribution model, but a couple of other strategies as well. Like one bright spot is covered by the other one. So again, this is just me speaking. I would love to get your thought on this attribution modeling stuff and why is it increasingly hard, to find your ROI from a Marketo campaign, specifically regarding Marketo.
Um, this one is very debatable topic. I think it's very opinionated. Um, it's like, half of the industry thinks like attribution is a waste of time. But everyone understands that this is required to prove your value. It's like at a very broad level, it's like you you're doing the math, you figure out what channel is working versus what is not. Whatever is working, you double down on that, and you reduce or maybe even discard the channel which is not working. It's primarily it. I mean, it's about making decisions to keep investing in a channel or not. Um, and I think the problem, or I would say the confusion, maybe it is at least a confusion for me, that there are a variety of models, first touch model or multi touch model. I don't know. I mean, there are different shapes like W model, T model. There are a variety of models. Nothing fits every size. There is no one size fits all. And in my experience, in my roles, I think the first touch is something we can never ignore. Um, Even if the last touch is, I mean, it's very hard to, because if we talk about branding from a marketing standpoint, it is very um, nuanced. Like, it's more about neuroscience in some aspects. You don't know what made a person buy. It's psychology. Okay, I mean, I clicked an email, maybe that message triggered my mind. That is just not measurable. All we are trying to see in attribution is that how the person went from point A to point B, and if there are any commonalities from A to B for, let's say, 100 people, we try to make some conclusions that, okay, looks like A, B, C, D, E, F, these things are working. Maybe the paid channel is not working, the email might be working. And to do that, we use the UTM parameters. The confusion in my point is that A, the data is a problem. It's a big problem because we don't yet have a very elegant way to capture sources. I mean, we still do it by UTM parameters in the URLs, and enforcing that is dependent on manual input. So if you're doing a paid campaign, you will, I mean, even if you're doing it in Google, even Google will give you can, create your own concatenation, you can create tables, you can create tools, you can create URL creators where you can define the UTM campaigns, mediums, but ultimately somewhere you have to define the value of a UTM source, UTM medium, UTM channel. Okay, that is one, that is manual. The second issue is that there is no consensus on what is UTM medium, what is source, and what is channel. Think about it. Like, I may call a channel as a source. I may say that, okay, um, okay. I mean, my source is Facebook, right? And my medium, I will call this as a medium. So my source would be Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, but the medium remains in that case social, right? And flip it, and many people can do the opposite. They may say, no, let's say the source is Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and we'll call the medium as social. Versus we can say medium as social, medium as Twitter or LinkedIn, and we will call the source as uh, social. There is nothing wrong in both of them. The problem is that if I am using one model at my present company, I move to a next company and there is a different model. Unless you are very clear on, that this definition is what makes thing different, it's going to result in communication problems, which is what happens a lot of time. And it's also a second level problem. It's not even a first level problem. The first level problem is like 50% of the time these URLs simply don't exist. um, Interestingly, I'm working on a project right now where I need UTM parameters because someone needs to look at a specific channel and the data around it. I cannot give that data until that UTM parameter exists. So one problem is data hygiene, right? That if the data hygiene is not in place, and that is a very consistent problem. I have seen it since I have been working in Marketo. There has never been a day that I have not seen this problem either in my project or in someone's project or in my. I can very safely say that almost every day I have seen this problem. Someone has talked about this problem either on some blog, on LinkedIn or YouTube, on my meetings or somewhere. Like this is a consistent problem, and I'll share what I think about that. There's a reason for this phenomena, and the second part is communication because people talk about things in a very different way. That is another problem, and that makes it complex. Usually, they're meaning it the same. For example, I just told you that if we want to have attribution model, I want to I want to have a first touch. I want to have a last touch. I want to record multiple touches. I may want to concatenate all the touches into one field. I may even work with a developer to maybe structure it into some kind of table, right? We could do that. What I'm saying here is like when I talk about it, maybe I even write up a presentation about it. I send it to, let's say, marketing. That person might perceive that as causation, whereas I was only talking about okay, the fact that a person started from A to B does not mean that A was cause of B. um, but it is very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that that just because a person clicked on an email, filled out a form, filled out many more forms, and at latest filled out a contact us form, it is very easy to think that because that person filled out those form, that is why the person ended up into sales. But no, it might be the experience, it might be the messaging, it might be the product offer itself. Because take the elegance of the product out of the question and you might be left with simple advertising. And they have this classic saying that advertising just cannot fix a broken product. So I think it's multifold. It's very confusing issue to me. I say, I mean, I might be lucky that I'm not working in attribution very deeply, because it's something, it kind of pushes you to an area where you cannot experiment much. You might end up becoming a data scientist because you are doing a lot of maths, and it's good for you in terms of understanding correlation, maybe reporting, because that is part of business. But that does not mean like even if everyone is doing it doesn't mean it's right. So I actually share the criticism with a lot of people that it's not actually 100% good use of time. um, I don't think so. I mean, the other, maybe like let's take a couple of steps back. If you have a company, you decide to have a marketing department. Why do you want to prove its value? If you are requiring proving the value of a marketing department which you yourself have developed, then it actually counter acts to your vision. I mean, you're questioning, in a way, you are questioning yourself. Maybe you're a CMO, maybe you are a CEO, you have this department, you either kill that department, but you don't choose to. You keep that department and you ask that department to prove that department is having a value. So it's in a way very recursive. These are maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I think it's not usually the intention that I'm maybe I'm I'm using this in a light-hearted tone, but overall I think there should be a line which we should draw that okay, this is the limit where we can prove the values. Beyond that, it's your decision, because um, marketing is very much art as much as it is science. At one stage, you should. I think we marketing is a lot about experimenting. Your decisions should be informed. If I think that this email works and this email doesn't, um, I I will play with it, right? I would like to expand my market. Like, I mean, if even if I talk about my own content, let's talk about like my own content. If, as you said, you said like you like my content. For a lot of time, I was pushing carousels, right? You would have seen it. Recently, I started pushing, one pager lines. Um, because I am experimenting, I know that something else worked. I still experiment. Would I have this creative freedom if I have to prove the value? No. That is something which restricts the creativity of marketing, which ultimately will restrict the business outcomes. So it's two-way round. I think there has to be some kind of consensus that okay, let's stick to this model. We are also, and I'm not saying that this is something we should ditch. I'm not saying that. We always need to look at the journey value. I mean, I myself design life cycle models. We look at people who MQL, people who SQL, right? How they are diversing from ratios. But ultimately, we just look at the results. We look at okay, what is the volume of FQLs, right? What did we do good? What did we do not do good, right? It's very qualitative. It's not like yes, there are teams, there are analytics teams which are talking, which are doing the number crunching, which is totally important. But basing the entire thing on mathematics, I think that's wrong. So, and that's why it's complicated, because we are in a way confusing causation with correlation, and there is a communication problem. And at last, I would also, there is a cultural nuisance. If I am developing a presentation from India or APAC, our unit system is different. And as we are seeing, more and more new candidates are smarter. If someone was more than 10 years of experience, right? Like earlier, these days usually a 3 years of experience person can do a lot. If someone like if I get a person who is around 3 to 4 years of experience, that person is usually good to do some basic data analysis, right? The problem is that that person might not be able to translate it into the cultural adaptability. So the European person might read it in a different manner and perceive it in a different manner, and then there can be a lot of more complexities there. So again, as I said, like those are my thoughts around attribution. I think it is important to track activities. I think it is also important to try to understand the causes. But it cannot happen just on a table of metrics. We can only know the impact in a statistical form, which where we have some kind of empirical evidence. uh, Rest of it, like call it like 90%, it's on the table. The beyond that, it's more of our interpretation, I would say that.
Well, Gaurav, I knew I'd like you for a reason. Many of the things that you have said, I so much agree with that because if you put a price on everything, you cannot. There's not much room for any kind of innovation. Like, the funny thing, I didn't even notice that your posts were carousel or not. I just noticed that there was a post. It was providing value and there's a structure. And I just noticed the, I don't know, maybe it's my psychology, I don't know how, but just noticed the post, it was there and it's providing value. And I was not even in the mood to read, but that specific post with the diagram, it made me pause and read. And you have said such an amazing thing that if you had to prove value for each and every post, you wouldn't have the room for innovation. That is actually incredibly important thing about, and I can just see why the attribution modeling is such a debatable topic because yeah. So all of this, I just want to ask. I think you talked about data hygiene issues. Like uh, I wanted to ask you separately, but obviously you just hit the spot on there about the data hygiene. Why do you think there are so many? I've noticed this issue specifically a lot within the mid-market companies for some reason when their context list size list is actually expanding. So why is there so much issues around the data hygiene? Would love to
Okay.
comment on that.
Thanks to come back to it. So again, one of the reasons, according to me, is it's just a phenomena of nature. If we think about data, it simply reflects, and we are talking about audience data here. We're not talking about the data in terms of content on emails. We're not talking about data in terms of other details. We are talking about data about people. That is the data I'm talking about. For example, if let's say if I have details about Ali, I have your name, first name, last name, I have your email address, right? I have your company name. Let's suppose I also have your phone number. That data is with me in some row in my Marketo table. In Marketo, it is very basic, I would say. It is unlike other platforms. Marketo is on backend a very big table, which is very flat. It's like a spreadsheet. Um, Now, it's not a problem just because of any functionality issue. It's a problem because what it is reflecting. Now, that record is representing you. Now, you change a company, you change your phone number, okay? And I don't know. That record is not anymore having good data hygiene because that record is not having the correct phone number and that record is not having the correct company because you changed it. Okay, this is an oversimplification of the natural phenomena that the data we have is simply a representation of reality. Because the reality keeps changing every second, we never have 100% accurate data of reality, right? We should not even aim to have that because that will yeah, that will be very overwhelming. The other problem is that data hygiene issues are caused by um, lack of best practices as well. Now let's talk about couple of details which we can control. So um, if I'm uploading a list, I need to have some consent forms in it. If I got an attendee list from an event, I have to make sure that the marketers have confirmed that these people have given the consent or they have collected the consent at the booth. That is part of their event management. If I am creating a form, I must have all the details which I require. So it's not like data completeness is basically whatever you need to follow up. So if you just need a phone number, maybe it's first name and phone number. That's it. I mean, that is complete and hygiene itself. But if it does not solve your person, that if it does not solve your purpose, then it's a problem. So if you are working in a global marketing landscape where you have people from India, you have people from Pakistan, you have people from China, you have people from US, maybe even from Europe, you cannot do it without having the value of country. So if your forms are not having the field of country, that will cause problems. Then there is connectivity issues. If your fields do not map to other systems correctly and the admins of systems don't know about it, then there could be problems. So data hygiene problem is something which cannot be fixed at all. It is something which can be managed and monitored. So that's why we do audits. For example, I usually recommend, you will see many people will recommend to audit your database every quarter and take steps to delete bad data, enrich incomplete data, and maybe identify any new patterns and fix that. So it is important to spend time to think about your data after a couple of weeks or a couple of months so that you can actually improve that. So it is iterative. It is not like one size fits all as in marketing automation. It is just not possible to not have data hygiene problem, because if that is the case, then you're not doing marketing. So If you're actually participating and doing a lot of thing, you will result in some kind of data issues. You will have people whom where you will not have the country values, company values. So these nuances and that's where we have a lot of team. It's not a one person job, right? You need someone to take care of data full time, you need someone to take care of operations full time, you need care. That's the reason teams need more people for marketing automation and operations. I mean, we are two people who are managing marketo in one team, and it's very overwhelming, I must say that. I mean, it's we like it. We like to work in marketo. It's enjoyable and fulfilling. But I cannot deny that, and the culture is fine. The culture is good at our company. That there is no pressure as such. But if it is an agency world or if it's a startup world, you can imagine that there is a lot of pressure, and it can easily turn up into a burnout. So that's actually one reason why it takes so much resources. So yes, data hygiene is an issue. One, because of it's simply reflecting a reality which keeps changing, and two, because um, there is a lot happening in marketing. Uh, it's not so. If you have templatized everything, maybe you reach a stage where you have very minimal data issues. And I think we should not aim for 100% accuracy or 100% data hygiene. Maybe let's just aim for 70% data hygiene. You don't need 100% data accuracy to make decisions. You just need a couple of them, because when you combine that with, I mean, that's why we have statistics for, right? They can identify patterns, they can identify statistical significances, like make meaningful decisions. There are a lot of models to do that. I don't know what they are, I know there are. So data hygiene is not a problem which we should ignore, but it is not also a problem where we should invest everything. I mean, we should not be investing all of our time into data hygiene issues. I mean, make some changes, make sure that these 10 fields are in place. You might want to prioritize that and keep the rest for later.
Edgar, I have already taken so much of your time, and you're so gracious with your knowledge. I like this is what people actually pay for. I'm so grateful to you. Um, if you would like to add something, you can, because my questions have obviously that's all I wanted to ask, but I cannot thank you enough, honestly speaking, for coming
No,
here.
no. I mean, yeah, no. I mean, I'm always happy to share. I mean, whatever I can. So always happy to do that. If it helps me. It fulfills
It
me.
helped.
So
It helped massively. I don't know. It helped me massively. So many things are now making sense. Starting attribution modeling, it's amazing. We also covered a few reports. I will surely send them your way. Um, they're based on basically insights of directors and directors and VPs. So I hope you find it useful. And if you
Mhm.
think we could add more value to that, you can always let me know. I would love to do that. If there's anything else you would like to add, please add that, because I would love to listen to you
Sure,
more about
sure.
this. By the way, one
Yeah,
more thing, you have a very amazing way of speaking. You have a very amazing way of imparting knowledge. It just flows. I like that. Just
thanks.
just just
Thanks
wanted
for
to add
that.
that.
Thanks for that. I actually think I have to work on it, but I mean, thanks for that. I think I pause a lot. I think there is a lot of breaks because I rarely prepare. That might be the reason. But really, I mean, like to see that someone has appreciated that might mean that I am improving. So thanks for that. Okay, great. So what else? And what are, I mean,
Uh,
you work on day or you work like across the, I mean, it's like night your time.
it's actually a hybrid thing, and sometimes there are actually flexible timings. I'm actually my status is actually written as a copywriter, but I'm actually a marketing development specialist. So my
Okay.
job is basically to connect with the good people like you, to get more insights, to actually present a very clear and holistic picture of the actual thing. And that's why I get in a lot of trouble with the sales team. I get in a lot of trouble with them uh, because of like this has
Mhm.
been a thing between, I think that dispute between marketing and sales is a tale as old as time, and this actually keeps on happening. But um, this is the part of my job that I absolutely love. I connect with people like you. I listen to you guys. So many valuable nuggets, old nuggets that I've collected. It's an amazing work process. Because I am so glad I listened to you. So many amazing things. Um, I'd like to make a few posts based on this, and I'd love to tag you if that is okay with you. So
Yeah, sure, sure. I mean, let me know in any way I can help. I can, we can. I'm always happy to collaborate.
that would be amazing. But I obviously before sharing on LinkedIn, I'll share those posts with you. It's basically how should I say what I learned from this session with you. So yes, that would be it from my side, Balkesh. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ali. Have a good one.
Please
Bye.
have a good one. Take
Good
care,
night.
please. Good night.